Hey guys, this is Captain Fool reporting for duty, and not too long ago I picked up Blade 2 on the Xbox. Yes, the original OG Xbox for really cheap. And I was like, I'm gonna play this, and I realized, wait a minute, was there a Blade 1? So I looked back and I found that there's a Blade 1 on the PlayStation 1. So I went and I got that game and I decided to play it. I played it and now I want to review it and share my retro review thoughts with you. Is Blade 1 for the PlayStation 1 worth getting? So I hope you kick back, relax, enjoy the video. If you don't mind, hit like, subscribe, hit that notification bell to help out this channel. And let's jump in and have some fun.
I'll hand you back to Jill in the studio. Let's get this bird back to Earth, Phil. It's too damn rough up here tonight.
Who would not want to be the vampire slaying badass, otherwise known as Blade? Well, here we go. We get the opportunity with the PlayStation 1, the game Blade. Yeah, we're going back to the PlayStation 1. We're hitting a little retro fun here, if you will. This game was an action game based on the 1998 film by the name of Blade. Now, I know people go, oh, it's a movie tie-in game, so automatically means bad. And I understand a lot of them, especially during this time, sucked. This one, though, let's talk about, let's dive in and see if it's actually worth playing or not. It was developed by Hammerhead for the PlayStation in 2000 and by HAL Laboratory for and Avid Incorporation, by the way, for the Game Boy Color. But we're talking about the PlayStation version, which was published by Activision. We are playing Blade. You're going to take control of the title character Blade as he goes through his way to cutting down various vampire-infested locations. You're going to fight regular humans, you're going to fight vampires and other types of monsters. You're going to be going through warehouses, museums, city streets, nightclubs, and on top of that, you even get a level where you get to play with none other than Whistler, which might even be, in my opinion, my favorite part. You'll get all kinds of different weapons to work with, too, which might also be a detriment, I might add. So let's start off first. What elements stand out to me the most? Well, first of all, you get to play Blade, and I think that's cool. Blade's a great character. He's been in several video games, but, you know, how cool is it just to have that character Blade chopping down vampires, right? Absolutely awesome. So that's one of the things that stood out to me. I get to play the vampire hunter. I like comic book characters, and here's another shot to do it. But with that said, this game is not all perfect. There is some glaring problems. So let's talk about some of these problems in this game. We'll talk about some of the benefits and the good points, too, and as the whole package overall. The graphics. Let's talk about the graphics first. The graphics were okay for its time. Actually, for a PlayStation game, for this kind of game, I think they're quite good. You didn't have a lot of background bending and things that you do tend to get around this period and earlier with PlayStation games. As well as the sound was quite good too, which is one of the reasons I'm mentioning it now with problems. The problem there is you don't have the actual actors that were in the movie doing the voiceover work for Blade. So that's why I put this in the problem part. But I will say, the actors that did do it did a pretty darn good job. I didn't have any problem with them. I thought they did well. So, all right, getting really deep though into the problems. One of the big ones was the camera. This does have the traditional camera problems of video games of this era. Sometimes you just don't know what's around the corner, you can't really see around the corner, and the camera doesn't help you. What can help you is using your strafe. Using your strafe ability, you can go around those corners, having a better opportunity, so you don't get surprised by those characters that will cut you down in seconds. So that's one of the big ones right there. Another one, and this is probably the biggest one, is you never want something in the game to take you out of the immersion. If I'm playing Blade, I want to feel like I'm Blade and being in it. But when something keeps taking you out of that immersion, it tends to reduce the game. And this problem here was the load time. The load time in this game was atrocious. You're going to see the spinning blade very often in the upper left-hand corner. And what that means is there's going to be enemies. If you see that, it means it's going to take time and load enemies. So there's never any surprise, really, that there's enemies. My only surprise will be where is the enemy in the next screen? But it's not a big surprise because you know one's going to be there, making you more prepared. So you never have to worry about an enemy unless you saw that load time. I just wish there was a way they could have masked that load time, or I don't know, did something so it reduced the amount of load time, because it was a real constant problem in this game. You'd be going around the hallway, all of a sudden load time, so you go, oh, I got enemies coming. So there was never really any surprise there. And another big one I found too is there's really a lack of save places here. I'm not, I'm an old school gamer, so I understand get good, and if you die, you might have to go back ways, and that's not the problem. The problem is when I fight a boss and beat a boss, I think there should be a save spot after the boss, and there's spots in this game where you'll beat a boss and you have to continue for quite a while still afterwards before you get to a save place. I don't like that very much. On top of that too, well, they are pretty few and far between, which means you're going to have to sit down and make sure you play for a while. So if you get lost, you're going to have to, find that safe space. And once you use it, it's gone. It doesn't stay there. So let's say you find a safe place, you get lost a little bit, 20 minutes, you just want to go back and save it so you can go somewhere or something. You can't really do that. But on the bright side, to be honest, this game, you don't really get lost a whole lot. It's not exactly linear, but it's not real hard to find what you need and hitting a switch or whatever and going to where you need to go. Not too bad. I only really got lost once, and I had to think about it for a second. It's like, oh yeah, I got to go back to this area. Duh. That's the whole reason I was over here. So that was probably on my end. Another thing, too, when I mentioned with the camera, they're going to use the camera sort of like you did get it in Resident Evil, the original 1 and 2 and 3, if you will, where they're going to change the camera perspective to try to add an element. It just really didn't work. It changed up the controls too much and made it a little bit janky. So you had to all of a sudden be accommodated and accustomed to the new controls, which way you're moving and things when they change that camera. What it'll do is it'll zoom away and give you a smaller picture of Blade, but you still have all the same mechanics and everything. It just made it hard to control during those parts. Remember I mentioned the immersion of the game and what could take you out. Well, it had some unique features, but they were a double-edged sword. Ha ha ha. I hope you get the humor there. And the double-edged sword is this. You had a lot of weapons, and that's cool. And some of the weapons, not everyone. The sword, for example, doesn't. But if you have the handgun, the machine pistol, shotgun, there's different types of ammo. There's regular ammo for regular people. There's going to be silver ammo that's going to be great for the vampires. There's going to be more different type of ammo that's a little bit better for the humans, as well as there's like explosive ammunition and things that are great for fighting the monsters. And you're going to be switching that ammo based on what kind of monster, vampire, or human you're fighting. Now, there's the good point there. It adds a little differentiation, but the bad point is you're going to be constantly switching those things. Otherwise, you're going to just run out of ammo really quick. You want to choose the right one, whether it be a shotgun with silver shotgun shells or regular shotgun shells, whatever it may be, you're going to be switching constantly. So that's sort of a negative. It's going to take you and slow down the gameplay, but there's also the positive. You want it to slow down the gameplay because when you switch those items, it actually pauses the enemies and everything on the screen. So while you're doing that, you don't have to worry about the enemies getting you, and that's a good thing because you're going to be switching and be like, oh crap, it's this coming at me. You're going to want to switch, and if you didn't have time to switch, that thing would have killed you in a heartbeat. So that's a double-edged sword, as I said, that switching of it. But where it takes it out is this, you're doing it so much. And on top of that, you load that in with the load time. Consider that, oh, there's enemies, get your gun ready, and then you got to hope you have the right one. If not, you switch it. And if you do die, well then, yeah, now you're going to have an idea of where everything is, and it's going to help you in that way. So ultimately, this game never excited me or bored me, and that's part of the problem of the game. It never brought either one. All those things like the pausing, the load times took the immersion of you being the character out, so it took away from the excitement of the game. It never did enough to bore me in the game, and I don't think the game outlasted its welcome either. The bosses weren't anything super spectacular. So I think they're maybe considered mini bosses that you could just use like your machine pistol and blow away and not take a hit. Thank goodness for that. There's some very big creatures too. You might want to use bolts and things and just back up and hit it while you're at it. Those aren't even considered bosses. And then the bosses, they're a bit of a mixed bag. There's one where you have to pretty much just dodge everything and let another creature hit it because you can't hurt it. Wouldn't say it's too bad, but the controls are a little wonky for it, making that harder than it really needed to be, but not really hard. And the final boss I thought was really very easy to defeat. You just pretty much dodged what it was shooting at you, which it didn't shoot often, and if you did get it hit, you just use something to health yourself up with, and then shoot it with this big gun you got and then wait for it to cool down and repeat. Now you also had a list of items too, which could bring up his endurance, his stamina, so he could continue slashing his sword or continue moving. Because here's another goofy thing: if you strafe, it uses your endurance. His stamina gets used if you strafe, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but it is what it is. And so you have a meter there for that, and you can restore that meter with certain items, as well as you have a health bar that you can also restore with certain items, each one giving a certain amount of health. So that made it nice. It was never too hard, but it was never too easy as well. Even though I just talked about the bosses not being that bad, the other parts are what can really get you. You have to be careful. There is a couple times where they might surprise you a little bit, but not much, as I said, due to you're already paying attention because of the load time. Well, whenever I think about a game and I want to rate a game, I want to compare it to other games similar to it. Now, one of the ways this game stands out, as I said, I think for its time graphically, it wasn't bad. It didn't have a lot of bendy backgrounds and things like that you get of those type of games on the PlayStation. So that's a plus. But once again, the game never really did excite me. It wasn't a long game, which is probably good. It kept up. I didn't keep track of the hours. I'm going to guess it was probably 5-6 hours. I could be wrong. So with that said, it was okay there. Their action was all right. The graphics and sound were all right. And there lies the problem. Notice I keep saying all right, and that's what the game was. It was just all right. They had never had anything that said, holy crap, this was cool, or wow, this was just amazing, or that sucked. Everything was done okay and just all right. Even the ending was just, all right, all the way through. So I can't really say anything else other than maybe giving this game a C. If you see it out there for cheap and you're a big Blade fan or a Marvel superheroes fan or a comic books fan, sure, go ahead and pick it up. But if you're not, yeah, you might want to leave this one on the shelf. It's not going to be anything so wonderful that you just have to race to get it. But that's not your view. That's my views. If you've played this game, let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts are. What do you think of the graphics on this game when you see it here? And until next time, keep slashing those vampires and keep it frugal.
Daywalker. My name is Blade.